Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about 3 builds for the Elemental Shaman for 10.2 and Season 3 of Dragonflight for both the Raid and Mythic Plus. So first and foremost, just note that all of these builds are inextricably tied to the new 4-piece I'll be dropping out of Emir Drasil in Season 3. So if you still have the Aberrus 4 set, then feel free to stay as a Lightning until you get the new 4-piece. Or if you have 0 tier at all right now and you're a returning player, or you're just re-rolling to Elemental and you don't have any tier at all, you can switch over to Fire builds now. Just note that the power level is going to be very, very much tied to that new 4-piece. So it's going to feel a little bit different and won't have the same level of flow, but once you get the full 4-piece, that's definitely the time to switch over to Fire builds. So with that said, let's first talk about what the tier set actually is. If you look online right now, if you try to Google what the Elemental Shaman 4-piece is, it can get kind of confusing because it changed so many times over the course of the PTR. You might be pushed the wrong information. So let's just get on the same page here and talk about the new 4-piece. So the 2-piece is Primordial Wave, also casts an Elemental Blast at the target at 70% effectiveness and grants you all 3 Elemental Blast bonus effects for 10 seconds. The 4-piece is Lava Burst burns your target for 10% additional damage over 4 seconds, and that works basically the same way as a Fire Mage's Ignite does. Basically, every time you use Lava Burst, that dot is just going to continue to stack up and do more and more damage based on how many Lava Bursts you fit in that window. It's not resetting the damage, it's stacking that damage. And then the second part of that is after consuming Primordial Wave, your next 2 casts of Lava Burst will also hit up to 3 additional targets affected by your Flame Shock for 65% normal damage. And a big portion of how this spec flows is in that last portion of that text there. So everything we're going to be doing will revolve around using Primordial Wave and then casting as many Lava Bursts as we possibly can. Because not only are we going to be doing damage with our Lava Burst, obviously, but every cast of Lava Burst will feed into Rolling Magma. Rolling Magma means that Lava Burst and Lava Burst overloads will reduce the cooldown of Primordial Wave by 1 second. So every single time you cast a Lava Burst, you're reducing the cooldown of Primordial Wave, which then allows you to trigger your tier set again. This will also count from all those Lava Bursts that are triggered from deeply rooted elements. That also accounts into Rolling Magma, as well as that 4 set that I mentioned before, those duplicate Lava Bursts, that second part there, your next 2 Lava Bursts to also hit up to 3 additional targets affected by your Flame Shock. That will also happen in single target as well. So every time you press Primordial Wave, those next 2 Lava Bursts are also going to be doubling up and also reducing the cooldown of Primordial Wave. So everything that you do, every single Lava Burst that you cast is reducing that cooldown of Primordial Wave. Every single build that Elemental Shaman will be using in 10.2 will revolve around that cooldown reduction on that Primordial Wave. So with that understanding, you kind of have an idea of how all of these builds are going to be working right off the bat. So using that Primordial Wave, reducing it as much as possible with Lava Burst, and using Primordial Wave again, and just keeping that circle going. So a couple things we'll note before we talk about some of these builds. As far as stats go, across the boards, we're going to be looking at the same thing. We want a soft cap of around 88% mastery. I don't quite have it here as I'm showing it to you, but you want around 88% mastery, and then from there, you can redistribute your stats to either haste or versatility, some amount of that. As always, always be simming yourself first. Don't take just a flat sheet word for it, just be simming yourself, but 88% mastery is what we're aiming for. We don't really want to be going even 1% over that before we then start redistributing to haste and versatility. As far as consumables, we want to be using, instead of using a rune, we're going to be using our improved Flame Tongue weapon. So that takes the place of a rune. For our food, we want to basically use any kind of intellect food that we possibly can have. The top ones are 76 stat, if I remember correctly. For files, we want to be using tepid versatility. While the corrupting rage potion technically does more damage, it's just not nearly enough to justify using it over the defensive capabilities of the tepid versatility, as well as the drawback of corrupting rage file doing more damage to yourself. Highly recommend just using tepid versatility. You want to be using potion of unlimited power at the highest rank, and then for your healing potions, you want to be using your refreshing healing potion. Embellishments, I don't really want to get into deep with it. They are very, very close. I'm going to throw up on screen what Ellie from the Elemental Shaman Discord wrote up about embellishments. Like I said, they're very close. I'll probably start off with Adaptive Dracothist Arm Guards and kind of go from there. Hailstone Treads are very good, but they do have the 10% slow attached to them as well, so they do have that drawback. Basically, you can kind of make your own decision with it. If you want to use this write-up that Ellie used, very, very good information here, so you can kind of make your own decisions with that going forward. But at the end of the day, like I said, they're very close. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into it and start talking about the raid single target build first. All right, so this is our pure single target build, and just like I said at the beginning, all of these builds are going to be revolving around casting as many lava bursts as possible, getting our primordial wave back up as quickly as we possibly can. So I know that a lot of people immediately see Ice Fury and start groaning. I know there's a lot of people who don't like it out there. I personally like Ice Fury as a concept, but you don't really have to worry about it. If you hate Ice Fury, it's okay. We are not weaving Frost Shocks. We are not trying to maximize our usage of Ice Fury. Ice Fury is purely a filler in this build. Do not be worrying at all about weaving Frost Shocks with Lava Bursts or anything like that. You are only casting it if you do not have Lava Bursts to spend. So keep that in mind. And we're only using, and this is not a mistake, we are using Electrified Shocks over Flux Melting. Electrified Shocks will buff your Elemental Blast. Flux Melting will only buff one Lava Burst. Your Elemental Blast is still doing more damage per cast, though it doesn't really feed into that feedback loop of reducing the cooldown of Primordial Wave. So we're not really worrying about Elemental Blast as much, but when we do cast it, we want that off chance that it will be getting a 15% damage buff, because that will overall come out to be more damage. So again, that is correct. But again, we're not worrying about any of that weaving. So the other thing I want to mention here, I do have Totemic Focus and Totemic Recall over here. You do not need to take these for the single target build. The only reason why this is here is in case you have bosses like a Gira or Laridar, you can move this 1 point of Elemental Equilibrium over here to Liquid Magma Totem, and boom, you have potential cleave. You would just basically, for those bosses, you'll just hold your Primordial Wave right from when those things spawn. You can drop down your Liquid Magma Totem, spread those Flame Shocks, then use your Primordial Wave and hit all of those targets. So just a way that you can very quickly have a pure single target build with 1 point differently, and then all of a sudden you have the ability to do that cleave for that intermittent cleave that you will have for Agira as well as Laridar. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into how this will play in single target. So what you're going to do is you're going to precast your Fire Elemental at around like 3.5 seconds. At 2 seconds, you'll cast your Ice Fury. And again, this is just to get it kicked off here. We're not going to worry about those Frost Shocks. Ice Fury into Primordial Wave into Lava Burst. And now our only priority now is pressing Lava Burst as much as we possibly can. And that's pretty much it. If you proc Ascendance, which I do right here off the bat, we're not even going to worry about overcapping. We're all Lava Burst all the time. Another Ascendance proc, doesn't matter. I'm not pressing Elemental Blast. We just want to be reducing the cooldown of that Primordial Wave and then using it immediately. Primordial Wave is the only thing we want to cast in the middle of Ascendance so that we can immediately start getting that cooldown reduced again. And that is all we're worried about. You'll notice we're already we're about 17 seconds in. I haven't cast a single Frost Shock yet because I haven't run out of Lava Burst to cast yet. So I'm not really focusing on that at all. It's just Lava Burst all day, all the time. If I have an extra time to spend, if I'm not going to overcap my Lava Burst, then I'm going to cast my Elemental Blast just to get that damage. We don't really want to be trying to overcap our Maelstrom, but we don't want to be wasting those Lava Surge charges or overcapping on Lava Bursts. So keep those things in mind. And another thing about this build, you'll notice there's a lot of Lava Surges. I get one right here in the middle of the cast. One thing that this really should be hammering home for everyone, do not cancel your casts because of a proc. One of the fundamentals for pretty much any caster is to always be casting. Even if you're in a situation where you have a lightning bolt that you have to cast because you didn't have any Frost Shock charges, you didn't have Ice Fury ready, and you're forced to cast a lightning bolt, which will happen here in a second. If you get a Lava Surge in the middle of that lightning bolt, do not cast it, or do not cancel it, excuse me. Do not cancel that lightning bolt, let it cast, and then go about your day. Do not be canceling casts ever. That is just caster 101. So again, all I'm really focusing on here is keeping Primordial Wave on cooldown, Lava Bursting as much as possible. When I don't have that, then I can cast my Elemental Blast. If I do not have Lava Burst, then I can cast Frost Shock. And if I don't have any Frost Shocks and I don't have any Lava Burst, then I can cast Lightning Bolt. But again, the major thing we're focusing on here, above everything else, is casting as many Lava Bursts as possible. You're not worrying about, again, you're going to see these casts, these two charges of Frost Shock about to fall off. Don't even care. Not worrying about that one bit. Not a huge deal. We're just focusing on Lava Burst all day, every day. Primordial Wave, keeping that rolling on cooldown and casting as many Lava Bursts as we possibly can. So that is the whole idea of this build, is just casting as many Lava Bursts as possible, getting that cooldown reduction on Primordial Wave so we can access that tier set activation that much quicker. And that's pretty much it. That's all we're going to be doing with this build. Very simple playstyle, just casting Lava Burst constantly, Elemental Blast, Frost Shock, Lightning Bolt if you absolutely have nothing else. But that's pretty much it. Very simplistic. Don't try to overthink it with the Frost Shock charges. You don't need to be worrying about that. Even with Electrified Shocks, that's just a side benefit. If you happen to cast a Frost Shock, then maybe that next Elemental Blast you cast also gets the benefit of Electrified Shocks, but we're not thinking about that at all. Do not overthink that part of the rotation whatsoever. Just focus on getting as many Lava Bursts out as possible. Try not to overcap those Lava Bursts. You want to be getting them out ASAP. So that's pretty much it for the pure single target build. And now we're going to talk about how this works in Mythic Plus and talk about that build next. All right, so this is the build that I think will be the kind of standard build that you'll see in Mythic Plus, as well as the first boss in the raid, which is Gnarl Root. There's a lot of ads on that boss, so this probably will be that build as well. This definitely gives you the best mix of AoE and single target of any of the builds out there. There are some other builds out there that kind of come close, at least in the AoE department, to this one, but they give up so much single target. So this is a nice mix of both of those things, and that's pretty much it that I want to talk about, is that we can just kind of get into it here. So what we're going to be doing, if we're going into a pack of mobs and you're completely bone dry, what you can do is you can start off with your Stormkeeper into your Fire Elemental. You can either put down your Liquid Magma Totem first, or you can put your Flame Shock and your Primordial Wave out first and then drop Liquid Magma Totem. I don't like trusting Liquid Magma Totem. I like getting that out first, and then whatever it misses, then I use Flame Shock on one and then Primordial Wave on the other, and then I'm going to go ahead and trigger my Primordial Wave so I get all that haste from that splintered elements. So with that being said there, what you can do two different things here. You can go ahead and just like send your Chain Lightning Stormkeeper charges right away, or what you can do, and I think this might be something that we might start doing, especially as the season moves on a little bit more consistently, is start fishing for Ascendance so that we can then use Lava Beam instead of Stormkeeper with those overloads. So what I can do here, I have gotten lucky and I have triggered Ascendance, so now I can then use my Stormkeeper charges on a Lava Beam. There's one, and then there's the other, and then now I'm going into the rest of my, going back into the normal rotation of the AoE here. So if you want to kind of fish for those Ascendance procs so that you can get Lava Beam overloads that will do more damage, you can do that. Kind of up to you. It's not the biggest of deals. It might be worth doing. It certainly looks cool, so you can definitely have that as a bonus. But I don't think it's going to be the make or break for this build. If you also just feel like if you don't have your, like, let's say you didn't have your Liquid Magma Totem ready at the start of a pull, you can just use that Chain Lightning from Stormkeeper just to generate Maelstrom so that you can drop your Earthquake, trigger your Surge of Power, which will then allow your Flame Shock to hit a second target, and you can use it that way if you're bone dry and don't have that Liquid Magma Totem. So that's another way you can use it as well. Kind of think about Maelstrom as just as a way to get Earthquake so that you can get a Lava Burst because of Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. Every single time you use a spender, you're getting a Lava Burst one way or the other. So that's kind of how you can think of Maelstrom in this situation. But anyway, moving forward, the main gameplay loop here is casting as many Lava Bursts as possible and then using your Primordial Wave and then doing the whole thing again. If you don't have any Lava Bursts to press, then we're going to press Earthquake, which will immediately give us a Lava Burst, as I've said before. So during Ascendance, just like with every other build, we're just going to ignore everything else and we're just going to press Lava Burst over and over and over again. The only thing we would press in the middle of Ascendance is our Primordial Wave. So we're going to go get that out right there, and then we're going right back to Lava Burst. Very simple playstyle, essentially 3 buttons. You're just focusing on Lava Burst, Earthquake if you have no Lava Burst, and then pressing Primordial Wave on cooldown. And that is pretty much the entire playstyle. Make sure that you're paying attention to the durations of your Flame Shocks. You want to make sure if any of them fall off that you're ready to put another Flame Shock on them. There's several different ways to track it, but whatever's comfortable for you is going to be the best. So Again, the crux of this at its core is just casting Lava Burst as much as you possibly can and watching those Flame Shocks. Right here, I think they all fall off. Like I had 3 Flame Shocks fall off. I just had my Liquid Magma Totem ready to apply Flame Shock, but as you can see, it looks like it missed one, and that one I then have to single target, then put Flame Shock. So make sure you're watching those Flame Shocks. You don't want to be just getting into this loop of only pressing Lava Burst and then realizing that you didn't have Flame Shock on any targets. So keep that in mind as well. Make sure you're watching those Flame Shocks. Make sure you're keeping those up, but after you've done that, then it's just Lava Burst all the time, Primordial Wave on cooldown, and that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much the whole playstyle right there. Fishing for those procs for Ascendance if you want to, but again, I don't think that's really going to make or break the bank. All right, so for this build in single target, it works basically the same as every other build will work. Again, I'm going to say that like 5 or 6 or 7 times by the end of this video, but basically you just want to be using Primordial Wave on cooldown and casting as many Lava Bursts as you possibly can. Because we have Stormkeeper, if we have everything ready to go right at the beginning of a fight, we can precast Stormkeeper just like we did in AoE, but we are going to be holding it for Surge of Power if you have it. Surge of Power is the buff that you get after using a Spender. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Stormkeeper, use my Fire Elemental, go Lava Burst into a Primordial Wave, and then start chucking as many Lava Bursts out as I possibly can. And then the first Earth Shock, I can Earth Shock, get a use my Lightning Bolt on that Surge of Power, get some more Lava Bursts, and then cast Lightning Bolt on this Surge of Power. Again, if you don't get that correct, it's not the end of the world. The big thing to take home here, the biggest thing to focus on is just Lava Bursting as much as you possibly can. We're not worrying about Surge of Power in single target outside of that one very specific situation. We're not trying to weave our Lightning Bolts in there. We're just casting Primordial Wave and Lava Burst as much as we possibly can, keeping that loop going. If you don't have a Lava Burst, then you can cast Earth Shock and immediately get a Lava Burst because of Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. And whenever we get a Ascendance, like I do right here, we're not worrying about the Maelstrom cap whatsoever until we're run out of Lava Burst, and then we can use that to generate that Lava Burst immediately. Again, with Primordial Wave up, we want to use that ASAP so that we can work on reducing that and start working on getting that out again, and that's the whole gameplay loop. Lava Burst as much as possible. If you don't have Lava Burst, if you don't have an Earth Shock to use, that's when you press Lightning Bolt. You want to try to avoid that as much as possible, but sometimes that will happen, and you'll just have to cast a Lightning Bolt. So keep that in mind. Again, Lava Burst as much as humanly possible. The only thing we would ever cast in the middle of Ascendance other than Lava Burst would be Primordial Wave, and that's pretty much it. That Primordial Wave is going to take precedence over pretty much everything else, so make sure we're just keeping that going. Every single Lava Burst should be helping you reduce that cooldown of Primordial Wave. So that's pretty much it for single target. Again, very simple. Don't try to overcomplicate it for yourself. At the end of the day, if you get confused, press Lava Burst, press Primordial Wave, and that will carry you for most of the way. And the last build that I want to talk about is going to be the build that I think we might be using on Council. Again, this might change. I'm just going to throw this in here just so you have something to try during the first few weeks of Raid. If this turns out to not be the best one, the best way to check will be looking at Warcraft logs and seeing what other elemental shamans are using for this boss. I do think this one has a good chance of being the play for Council, so that's what this third build is going to be. So we'll go ahead and talk about that now. All right, so for Council of Dreams, we kind of go back to that more single target type of build. Again, don't worry about what I'm doing over here in the class tree. These can be moved around because we're not taking Liquid Magma Totem, though you can take that if you want. You can move this 1 point over to Liquid Magma Totem if you feel like you're struggling with keeping Flame Shocks up and you know that you're going to be able to at least hit 2. You might want to do that as well. It just depends on the proc rate of Ascendance and how well that you're able to keep your Flame Shocks rolling. So you could move this 1 point over here to Liquid Magma Totem, in which case Totemic Recall might be worth taking. But the big thing here is actually the return further beyond. The build that has been under so much fire over the course of the PTR might actually still be the way to go for Council of Dreams. So it'll be definitely worth playing around with because it still is able to get fairly good results and fairly high Ascendance uptime. And also because the duration of Further Beyond has been nerfed so much, it does not take that much in order to get the full extension of your ascendances. So the way that this build will work is very similar to the full single target build. For this, I'm going to start off with Ice Fury into Frost Shock, Flame Shock that is, into a couple Lava Bursts just to get the cooldown back of my Flame Shock before I go into Primordial Wave. Then I'm going to spread my last 2 Flame Shocks, and then we're going to get into our Lava Burst spam here. So the reason why I'm using these target dummies right here is because this is very similar to how the setup is going to be 99% of the time. On Council of Dreams, you'll have 2 that are very close together and 1 further away. So this target dummy situation is actually pretty much perfect. They'll be much further away. One target will be way further away than this, but in general, you'll have 2 next to each other, so there is actually a possibility of being able to Flame Shock spread with your Surge of Power. And yes, you are supposed to be using Surge of Power with this because of the way it's interacting with Lava Burst, getting your Fire Elemental back just a little bit quicker so you can get it back down and help extend those Flame Shocks. Aftershock is not going to be helping you out too much in this build because of how many Lava Bursts you're going to be trying to get out. You're not going to be really worrying about spenders as much as you would, say, in a single target build. It's not that much important in a single target build, but it's even less important in this build here. So again, going back to the opener, again, just getting that first Flame Shock out. First, what you could do if you took Liquid Magma Totem, this would be a lot easier. You could put Liquid Magma Totem down on 2 of them and then Primordial Wave the other one and then just get started right away. But because I'm not using that, I'm going to start off with just 1 Flame Shock, wait for that cooldown to come off of Flame Shock, then Primordial Wave, Flame Shock, and now I can get into it. So again, Liquid Magma Totem might make that easier. I'll let you guys experiment with that and see what works best for you. And from here, I just want to be Lava Bursting as much as humanly possible, even ignoring my Maelstrom Cap and just trying to reduce the cooldown of Primordial Wave, but more so than that, we're also trying to proc Ascendance. So as soon as we get into that Ascendance, we'll be able to actually start just really, really chucking out those Lava Bursts. So there's the first one. So every single time that we proc Ascendance, we only want to be casting 1 Elemental Blast and hopefully 1 Primordial Wave. Because Primordial Wave also sends out an Elemental Blast, that will be 1 extension, so that the hard cast that we actually do will be the other extension. There is very few times where we actually have to be casting 2 Elemental Blasts. Because of how quickly we're reducing the cooldown of Primordial Wave on 3 targets, most of the time you'll be able to just use your Primordial Wave as one of the extensions and then Elemental Blast as the other. So we can only extend it twice. So here, I did that first one, I believe. I had already done it. Let me just back up just a bit here to that first proc. So it procs, I keep pressing Lava Burst, Lava Burst, Lava Burst. Elemental Blast for my first extension, then Primordial Wave that gets the second extension, and then from this point on, I just Lava Burst unless I proc Ascendance again. So you do have to be watching your timers here, or have a way to be able to tell yourself if you've procced a second Ascendance. This one, I saw it jump up. I saw the Lava Burst spread everywhere, so now I know that I have another Ascendance going that can also be extended twice. So here I'm just going to worry about Lava Burst right here, 1 Elemental Blast, and as you can see, my cooldown of Primordial Wave is more than has enough time to come off cooldown to extend the second one. So now I'm just Lava Bursting Primordial Wave, that gets that second extension, and now I'm just Lava Bursting constantly, hoping to trigger another Ascendance. And that's the entire playstyle for this version of the Council of Dreams playstyle. So this might be what we end up using. Again, we try to get as much out of Ascendance as we possibly can so we can fish with as many Lava Bursts as we humanly possibly can. But it might be a slightly different build as well. I do think this one is worth checking out for Council of Dreams. So let me know how this works out for you guys. Obviously, I did not come up with this build myself. A lot of other LEs have been experimenting with these things as well, and it's just kind of an aggregate of data. But this could be the best build for Council. So keep that in mind. If you did like the idea of extending out that Ascendance with Further Beyond, it doesn't seem to be quite dead yet. Does seem to be fairly good on 3 targets. So with that said, we'll talk a little bit in conclusion, and then we'll call it from there. All right, so that's pretty much it. That pretty much covers the major 3 builds I expect to see early on in Season 2. Keep in mind that these things are subject to change. Blizzard will probably be doing tuning, especially early on in the patch, and maybe even as the patch goes on. We don't know what's in the future, and these videos that I put out do not change. They do not get edited. There's no easy way to edit them, take them down, bring them back up. YouTube really doesn't like that, so make sure you're paying attention to the date this was posted, and look at written guides if you're curious on how things have have changed. If you see like patch notes have come out, things have changed, always be keeping your ear to the ground so that you're not looking at old information. So with that being said, I hope this was a helpful video to help you guys get started in Season 3. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. I stream at twitch.tv/ridmark, so feel free to give me a follow there if you're interested in that. I do have a Discord if you want to ask me any personal questions. And like I've said before, if you're really interested in keeping your ear to the ground, feel free to join the Shaman Discord, which is Earthshrine. I'll have a link to it in the description. And you can come to the LA channel and just ask any kind of questions that you have. And there's a ton of people there always looking to help with those kind of things. So with that being said, guys, I hope you liked the video, and I will see you in the next one.